This is Epic Book Recaps, a podcast that offers complimentary audio summaries of influential nonfiction books, making learning a smarter experience. Bad Blood by John Carreyrou. From a young age, Elizabeth Ann Holmes was incredibly competitive, with an ambition that was ever present. She dreamed of becoming a successful businesswoman, and as early as 7 years old, she was laying the groundwork for her future career by designing a time machine and making numerous engineering sketches. At the prime age of 18, she was given the prestigious opportunity to study at Stanford as a President's Scholar, an opportunity that came in 2002. Availing herself of the chance to learn from the best, Holmes worked her way into an assistant position in Channing Robertson's research lab. Robertson was a highly respected figure within the Stanford Chemical Engineering Department at the time. Following an internship at the Genome Institute of Singapore, she made the decision to drop out of Stanford. During her internship, she had been testing patients using syringes and swabs, an experience that would shape her future endeavors. Motivated by her experiences in Robertson's lab and during her internship, Holmes patented a diagnostic and treatment arm patch. She was steadfast in her resolve to utilize her acquired knowledge in these areas. Upon the launch of her company, Shaunak Roy, a PhD student of Robertson's, was the first to join her team. Indeed, ambition is commendable, provided it does not risk or compromise the well-being of others in the process. Holmes initiated her operations in Burlingame, California, before eventually transitioning to an industrial zone in Menlo Park. She effectively made use of her family connections to persuade Tim Draper, a former neighbor, to invest a significant $1 million in her firm. In the words of John Carreyrou, Holmes, much like her idol Steve Jobs, possessed an aura of reality distortion. This unique ability compelled those around her to momentarily suspend their disbelief and buy into her vision. By the end of 2004, Holmes had successfully raised a significant $6 million from various investors. This accomplishment brought a sense of achievement for Shaunak as they began to realize their initial aims after a year and a half of relentless work. The company launched its first prototype, Theranos 1.0, expanded its team with 23 additional staff members, and was recognized by technology magazine Red Herring as the most promising startup in the Valley. This summary encapsulates the narrative of a once thriving company's decline to the bottom, the pitfalls of leadership, and emphasizes the undeniable importance of honesty and truth-telling in all aspects of life. Holmes sought the expertise of Edmund Koo to head the engineering department at Theranos. Koo had built a reputation as a problem solver within the Valley. Despite Holmes's insistence on running the engineering department all day, Koo held a different view. He believed that optimal performance would be achieved if the engineers were well rested. Nevertheless, Holmes proceeded to set up a rival engineering department led by Tony Nugent. Nugent successfully redesigned the Theranos by eliminating Koo's microfluid processes. This new design, christened the Edison, proved to be successful. The sustainability of success is dependent on paying close attention to both the objectives and the methods employed to achieve those objectives. Holmes's admiration for Apple led her to cross paths with Anna Ariola, who agreed to join Theranos as its chief designer. However, after some time, Ariola realized that Theranos was yet to complete its blood testing device. In response, Ariola sought the help of Avi Tavanian, a shareholder at Theranos. Upon investigation, Tavanian found that the company's revenue projections were unrealistic. His research further validated his suspicions, leading him to part ways with Theranos. The relocation of Theranos to Palo Alto in 2008 marked a new chapter in the company's history. The trials that were underway needed significant improvement. Holmes recognized that the Tennessee trial was destined to fail and promptly shifted focus to the Swiss giant, Novartis. When the devices performed poorly during the trials in Switzerland, Holmes dismissed it as a mere technical problem. Todd Surtee, the sales executive, sought the assistance of Michael Esquivel, Theranos' general counsel, and instigated a board shakeup through board member Tom Brodeen. The board collectively agreed to replace the CEO with Tom Brodeen. However, Holmes requested a second opportunity to lead the company, promising improved transparency and accountability. Yet, just weeks after her return to power, she dismissed both Surtee and Esquivel. A vengeful attitude can result in more harm than benefit in both business and life. Holmes's parents were neighbors with the renowned entrepreneur and medical inventor Richard Fewis, who had accumulated a vast wealth from selling medical patents. During a trip, Holmes's mother shared with Fewis's wife about her daughter's progress with Theranos. Richard was offended that Holmes didn't consider his expertise in medical patents necessary and, along with his lawyer Alan Schiavelli, filed a patent that exploited some vulnerabilities he observed in Theranos. It wasn't until 18 months after the registration, in January 2008, that Gary Frenzel, the head of the chemistry team, discovered this patent. In response, Holmes chose to sue Richard Fewis. She sought the assistance of Ken Page of McDermott, the firm through which she had initially registered her patent. However, John, Richard Fewis's son, was a partner at the firm. Not wanting to attack a partner's parent, McDermott dropped the suit. An interesting fact to note is that before Elizabeth Holmes coined the term the Edison, Theranos employees used to refer to the prototype as Gluebot, due to its resemblance to a glue-dispensing robot. Ramesh Balwani was an addition to the team at Theranos that amplified existing issues. Chelsea Burkett had been close friends with Holmes since their time at Stanford, attending parties together and keeping in touch even after Holmes left Stanford. Upon expressing dissatisfaction with her current job, Holmes pitched Theranos to her, and Burkett agreed to join. Burkett was hired to work with the validation studies groups at Theranos. However, the arrival of Rameshasani Balwani began to complicate matters for her. Balwani, who had amassed a fortune of about $41 million from a business deal in the late 90s, occupied the rather ambiguous role of vice executive chairman. He ensured that the staff at Theranos were kept in a constant state of intimidation. As it seemed that a crucial deal with Pfizer was on the verge of falling through, Holmes sent both Burkett and Daniel Young, a Theranos executive whom Holmes had brought on board to bring a fresh perspective to Theranos' blood testing system, to Belgium to pitch the Edison. Unfortunately, the device frequently malfunctioned, leading to an unsuccessful trip. Holmes encountered similar obstacles when trying to assess the spread of swine flu in Mexico. John Carreyrou remarked on how persuasive Elizabeth was, stating that her intense gaze when she spoke made you want to believe in her and follow her. Burkett increasingly grew frustrated with the problems at Theranos, while Balwani continued his reign of terror over the staff. He terminated the employment of Seth Michelson, an engineer from NASA, and even threatened to remove Tony Nugent. Burkett made the decision to quit her job when Holmes suggested using the incomplete Edison for a cancer patient's diagnosis. There should always be a clear boundary between profit and the safeguarding of human lives that entrepreneurs must respect and uphold. Holmes approached Jay Rosen, fondly referred to as Dr. J of the Walgreens stores. His enthusiasm for the Edison led other Walgreens executives, Kevin Hunter, Jim Sundberg, and Renat van den Hoof, to meet with Theranos and commit to investing in the firm. Both parties also agreed to use the Edison for their tests. However, Hunter became suspicious of Theranos' reluctance to release blood test results. Upon inquiry, he discovered from Dr. J that Johns Hopkins hadn't certified the Edison as Theranos had claimed. Furthermore, Theranos had been dishonest about the number of blood samples their cartridges could test. In a surprising turn of events, Holmes decided to confront Richard Fewis head-on in October 2011. She sued him for allegedly conspiring with his children, Joe and John, to steal confidential patent information and file a rival patent. To handle the legal proceedings, Holmes enlisted the services of David Boies. Boies had risen to prominence in the 90s when the Department of Justice hired him for a case against Microsoft. He had reportedly deposed Bill Gates for over 20 hours. Boies used a case from the 90s to argue that John Fewis had a history of funneling stolen information to his father. When it came time for deposition, John performed disastrously. Boies effectively ended John's career with his legal maneuvers. In search of clues to strengthen his case, Richard Fewis found a scientist, Ian Gibbons. However, Boies did not permit Fewis to contact him. It's essential to be careful of a person's character, as it can either make or break your career and life. Theranos made bold claims, stating that they could run over 800 tests on a single blood sample, and that their methods of testing were more accurate than traditional ones. Due to the misleading nature of these claims, TBWA, the advertising agency, demanded a non-disclosure on their website to evade liability suits. Recognizing that she wouldn't easily get away with the embellished description of the device, Holmes agreed to modify the content of her website 2 days prior to its launch in April 2013. David Boies wore down Richard Fewis and his sons. After spending over $2 million, the Fewis decided to represent themselves in court, a concept known as going pro se, which saw Joe Fewis taking on the responsibility of handling the case. Boies dismantled him. Their case was further weakened by conflicting statements made during the deposition. In March 2014, Richard and Boies met to settle the case. Fewis agreed to withdraw his patent and Theranos chose to drop its suit. Out of frustration, John Fewis hired Julia Love of the American Lawyer Media, ALM, to publish an article. He alleged that Boies had bribed the other Fewis and threatened to sue them. Roger Parloff of Fortune magazine discovered this article in the ALM and decided to meet Holmes. After a 7-hour interview, he became completely engrossed in the narrative of Theranos and what it stood for. In his subsequent article, The CEO Out for Blood, he depicted Holmes and her dreams of revolutionizing the world with just a single drop of blood. Ironically, Richard Fewis inadvertently contributed to increasing Holmes's wealth. Following the media exposure, Holmes ascended rapidly into the spotlight. Everyone who had an interest in Theranos, including Forbes and other prominent names in journalism, sought to know more about the company valued at $9 billion. Barack Obama even made Holmes an ambassador, resulting in an upgrade of her security detail. However, as the saying goes, when you build your life on a lie, no matter how high you rise, you will inevitably come crashing down. Alan Beam, tired of the deceptive practices at Theranos, was unable to access the control test data. He voiced his complaints in a meeting with the scientist Curtis Schneider. Beam took the initiative to transfer emails he had exchanged with Balwani and Young to his private Gmail account. He resigned in December 2014. Upon discovering the emails, Balwani insisted that he delete them after signing an affidavit. When Beam refused to delete the emails, Theranos threatened to sue him. Heeding his lawyer's advice, Beam decided to delete the 175 emails. Adam Clapper, a pathologist at Columbia, was skeptical of Theranos's claim that tiny droplets of blood would suffice for testing. Upon conducting research, he discovered there was no study that supported Theranos's claims. When Beam met with Clapper, Richard Fewis, Joe Fewis, and some others, he revealed Theranos's actions that were in violation of the Hippocratic Oath. Beam forwarded his findings on Theranos to John Carreyrou of the Wall Street Journal in February 2015. Carreyrou had a conversation with Beam on the 26th of February 2015 and learned about other employees who had left the firm for similar reasons. Although many were reluctant to break confidentiality, Tyler Schultz, Erica Chong, and others eventually made contact. As for Theranos, Beam revealed that it wasn't using its technology in some clinics, but was instead utilizing Siemens. Several doctors who had used the Edison reported that it consistently failed. Armed with this information, and despite not fully knowing the extent of his adversary's power, Carreyrou compiled these findings and set out to publish a story. Theranos did not take this lightly and dispatched threatening emails in an attempt to silence those involved. Tyler Schultz quickly found himself under intense pressure from Theranos. Theranos sued Schultz for releasing confidential information about Theranos to Carreyrou. After several unsuccessful attempts to reach Tyler Schultz and Holmes, John Carreyrou finally managed to set up a meeting with David Boies. The date was set for the 11th of June 2015. David Boies attended the meeting accompanied by Mike Brill, Meredith Dearborn, Daniel Young, and King Heather. Anticipating potential conflicts during the meeting, John Carreyrou was joined by Jay Conti and Mike Sikanolf, who headed the investigation team. The meeting commenced with remarks from Heather, who sought to refute false premises. Initially, Boies kept a calm demeanor while King and Brill were more vocal. Daniel Young confirmed that Theranos owned and used other devices, but he insisted it was for comparison purposes and not for operations. When asked specifically about Siemens, he referred to it as a trade secret. Concerning the Edison, Young admitted that it had flaws, but claimed they had progressed beyond that. He stated that they had moved on from that technology. He maintained that the number of tests the Edison could perform was also a trade secret. Theranos did not disclose anything about their patents as Carreyrou was unwilling to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Following the meeting, Theranos sent an email to Carreyrou, threatening to sue him if he wrote anything that was considered a trade secret or defamatory. In July 2015, the FDA approved Theranos' testing of the HSV-1 project, thus providing an opportunity for them to prove whether their technology was effective or not. Early in July 2015, the state of Arizona passed a bill that allowed people to undergo blood tests without requiring a doctor's order. Theranos installed its devices in Walgreens stores but didn't make them commercially available. The intention was to maintain their popularity without drawing the attention of the FDA. The clinics that were fitted with the mini labs also collected blood samples, but these were processed using other blood analyzers. The level of deception escalated. Theranos hired Michael Craig to conceal code failures in the mini lab. Holmes and Balwani even orchestrated a staged lab for a visit from Joe Biden. John Carreyrou collaborated on his case with Mike Sikanolfi, the senior editor at the Wall Street Journal. Holmes was scheduled to make an appearance at the annual Wall Street Journal Technology Conference in November as a guest speaker. However, Mike suggested that they wait and catch their prey off guard as none of the key people in the case were willing to come forward before then. Extensive research eventually led to the unveiling of the truth. Holmes turned to Rupert Murdoch, who had already invested $150 million in Theranos in an attempt to quash the rumors. Rupert Murdoch was a shareholder at the Fox Broadcasting Network. Theranos arranged a meeting with the editor-in-chief, Jerry Baker. However, Baker insisted that Mike Sikanolfi, John Carreyrou, and Neil Lipschutz also attend the meeting. During the meeting, Boies admitted that some tests had not been conducted on the company's proprietary device, contradicting what Young had previously stated, and organized an internal exhibition for Carreyrou. Anticipating that this would cause a delay of several weeks, Carreyrou pushed for publication. On the 15th of October 2015, the Wall Street Journal published an article titled "A Prized Startup Struggle," targeted directly at Theranos. The news resulted in an uproar with people taking varying sides on the case. In a publication by Boies, he claimed that Carreyrou had made up the allegations and indicated that a lawsuit was imminent. In his pursuit to bring the truth to light, Carreyrou published additional articles highlighting the inconsistencies he found about Theranos. To deliver the final blow, Carreyrou needed to ascertain what the Center for Medicaid Services, CMS, had observed after conducting an inspection and regulation test at Theranos. Chung's tip-off to Gary Yamamoto, a veteran CMS field inspector, led the CMS to conduct an inspection of Theranos' labs. In her letter to Yamamoto, Chung accused Theranos of scientific misconduct, sloppy practices, and deceiving the initial inspector who had visited in the fall of 2013. Acting on this information, another CMS field inspector, Sarah Burnett, joined Yamamoto to visit the Theranos labs. However, they were met with litigation and bureaucracy. Following the inspection, CMS gave Theranos time to rectify the issues within the labs. Further incriminating publications prompted CMS to inspect the labs again. This time, the secrets of Theranos were exposed. King Heather threatened to sue CMS if the reports from the lab were released. When NBC's Today interviewed Holmes, she expressed her remorse and dissatisfaction with the state of affairs. However, as they say, the truth always comes to light and reveals a lie no matter how long it takes. As investors began to withdraw their support, Boys also parted ways with Theranos. The onslaught of lawsuits forced Holmes to close down their labs. Theranos was required to pay $4.65 million in refunds to 76,217 of its customers. Had Theranos expanded to all 8,134 Walgreens stores in the United States, many people would have been at risk of receiving false diagnoses. This could have led to a substantial increase in inappropriate medical treatment. Elizabeth Holmes had set out to revolutionize the medical industry. Her invention was intended to bring about a radical change in diagnostics. However, she gained notoriety for orchestrating a large-scale scam. Her empire was built on a foundation of lies. Holmes's grand promises attracted a multitude of investors and jeopardized her customers' health, since those promises were never fulfilled. While aspirations and dreams are not inherently wrong, we must never compromise other people's lives in the pursuit of our goals. It is crucial to remember our humanity and treat others with respect and equality. Elizabeth Holmes let her power get to her head. She surrounded herself with a team of yes men and dismissed anyone who dared to challenge her or present the reality of their situation. Future leaders can learn a crucial lesson from this story. It is essential to have individuals who are willing to speak the truth and question your beliefs as they help keep you grounded. Most importantly, kindness is key. You may be able to climb the ladder of success by stepping on others, but your stay at the top will be short-lived. Your methods are just as important as your goals. And once the truth is revealed, your downfall is inevitable. Just as dishonest athletes are stripped of their medals, so too, deceitful CEOs face imprisonment. It takes immense courage to expose a fraud, especially when billions of dollars are at stake. However, an individual with a strong value system will find it easier to make the right decision and seek the truth. What are the values that you hold in high regard? Take a moment to write down the character traits that are most important to you, regardless of your profession or situation.